Audio seems to be working. Speech does not seem to be working. Anyway, today is the last day of Mardini, and I have participated a total sum of some of the days. So we're gonna go out with a blast. Today's word is refract. So that's what we're gonna call this project. And we're gonna start out by making a stage with the pig head. So the plan for today is to just explore the very basics of dealing with refraction in Karma. And in doing so, we're literally just going to make a glass of water, and maybe we're going to put a thing inside of the glass of water. Maybe we'll make it a sparkling glass of water. I think we'll just see how much time we have and how it all goes. I'm aiming to keep this below 2 hours, so that's kind of my deadline. I found, just because I've been doing a lot of teaching recently, so I found a little guide here on the Chaos Group's website, which is for V-Ray. And I would assume that this is kind of the same thing that you would want in Karma. At least I haven't heard that it should be any different. So basically what they're telling you is that you want to just start out with the geometry of the glass, and then you obviously want to just fill the top, and then you want to add a little chamfer so it dips in a little bit in the center, and then you just want to peak it, or make sure that it intersects just a little bit with the actual glass, such that you get this effect, which has something that I don't really get, but something to do with kind of the water forming a layer or something like that on the glass surface, and they are so close that in terms of how the light interacts with them, it kind of deals with them as like one thing, basically. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of how I understand it. Rather than this scenario here, where you're actively trying to avoid an overlap, and you see that it kind of renders two layers of refraction, and that doesn't feel very natural. So we're gonna aim for this scenario here. And then in this scenario here, they tried to just make the two overlap exactly, which, as we all know, in CG, you get some weird sea fighting out of that, so that's not really helpful. So we're going to try to avoid that as well. That's just the broad overview of what we'll be doing. Now let's try to actually do it. I think the glass I'll just model using a curve. We'll just get the front view here, side view, whatever, and we'll just model out a basic glass profile here. Let's see here. Can I make this snap? Point snapping? No, not in this mode, but maybe if I hit F and then I'll just hit K to get the gizmo up here. And then I'll snap it there. Yes, that's great. I'll just make sure that this one, both of them, in fact, get snapped to the grid. Like that. And like that. Great. Rest should be fine here. Then we'll do a, what's that one called? Is it revolve? I think it is. Sweet. Do a revolve. And I'll just disable the UV preview there. And maybe this curve needs to be reversed so we get the right orientation here. I'm guessing it's probably also a setting here. Reverse the cross section. Yep, it is. Anyway, now we have sort of a glass. And we're kind of running into this situation where we're getting this pole here at the bottom, and I don't think that can really be avoided if you bring the curve all the way to the center. But something that I've done in the past, let's see if we show this curve and then preview the revolve here. Something I've done in the past is I'll just get the curve tool and get these two guys and move them over, something like here. And then if we view the revolve now, we have this open surface here. And then we'll just do a polyfill. And we'll set that to quadrilateral grid. So now we get this kind of shape, which is admittedly more satisfying. And it doesn't make a pole, which could cause us issues when rendering later on. The only pitfall with this technique is that if I set the divisions here to 13, it'll fail because obviously it can't do this operation here, dividing it into grids like this with an uneven number, because all of them have to be quads. So we're just going to increase that to something like this. Yep. And then most classes, I don't know. Some classes have a little bump here at the bottom that kind of moves up a little bit. Not entirely sure why it's there. If it has something to do with like if you spill some water, I don't know. I can imagine there's a reason for it. Otherwise, why would you bother? So let's try to make that as well. And I'm trying to think here if there's a nice procedural way of doing it, and I think there would be. So we're gonna waste a lot of time today making this setup procedural, even though we're just gonna do a one and done render here, but then maybe you can have fun with it later. So I think what I'll want to do is I'll get this as a patch group. And then I'll do a connectivity. If I just split the patch group like that, so now I have two connected surfaces. you can also, but I'm not sure about the art directability of this. You can also use this deform patch here, which you can see it's already deforming a little bit, and then you can use this surface offset, which kind of gives you the same result. So it could be worth playing around with that. I just know that in the past I have done something like, still have snapping on, I've done something like this, and you can see it's kind of not, it's not super visible here. It's actually not too bad. I thought that effect would be worse. I don't know, I felt like in the past this has been a bit unpredictable for me, but maybe it's fine. Maybe we don't need this complicated solution here. Maybe we're happy with this. The thing is, it's also doing it on the inside, and I don't know if I would say that glasses have that on the inside as well. I think usually they're a bit flatter. Let's try to see if we can get a... if we can get an image. No. Yeah, I mean, who knows if you can really trust this, but it looks to me, and that was my intuition as well, like you get a kind of a dip in the top layer, and then you have the more of an inverse dip at the bottom. At least some glasses have that. So let's have a look. Let me just shut down Discord there. There we go. So I'm just trying to think about a smart way to go about that, but I don't know. Because you need to deal with them separately, but we also kind of have a curve that we're just drawing. Is that a problem we really want to solve, or do we not care about it? I don't know. I think for now we're gonna try to move on to the next step, and then when we get to rendering, we'll see if we do care about it or not. So I'll just drop down and resample here as well, because we want more segments along this long edge here. Let's see, if you set this to resample by polygon edge, I think it'll keep those points that you already have there as like as guide points, kind of, so that it won't remove those. It'll always use those as well, which is good if you want to keep the shape. So maybe something like this is good, so that when we subdivide this eventually, it'll start to look like this, which feels like a glass, sort of. We can refine all of this a bit later, but for now, this is good. Okay. So then we need to get the water. And what we were saying was that we can just kind of extract parts of this glass and turn it into the water mesh. So we need to somehow get these inside edges, or these inside faces here, and then crop off the top. And I don't know if that's just like, because I think if you'd made it in a different way, you could probably, kind of based on extrusions and stuff like that, you could probably use the groups from the extrusions, but because we're making it based on a curve, we don't really have anything that tells us which part is the inside and which part is the outside. So I think we'll have to do it by the normals or something like that. So I don't know if this is a dumb idea, but if we put a sphere kind of inside the center of the glass here, just make it a polygon like that and increase the frequency. And then maybe we do a ray. Does that make sense? Let's see here. Polyfill. So I want the group on this, right? So I'd have to do it like this, but that's also not really the way that I would want it to go. Because I'd rather shoot the sphere at the points and then see if the sphere hits the points, and then mark the group based on that. So if I reverse this, and now we can see the sphere is hitting all these faces here. I feel like there must be there must be a much smarter way to do this. I don't know. Let's try it out. So then we want to get a prim num attribute probably. And now we kind of get the matching number on the sphere of points that it's hit. And then I feel like we're getting into some vex territory here where we're gonna have to run through the points of the sphere. And kind of see if they mention a primitive on this mesh here, and then we'll have to turn it into a group. And we don't need to run over every single point on the glass. We just need it once. So this will be like group hit prims. And then I can never remember how to do loops in Vex because I almost never do it. So I'm just looking that up now. So And what is that? Is that num? Nope. Is it? It's endpoints, is it? Yes, endpoints on 1. So we're gonna see how many iterations we need by how many points are on the sphere. So we're gonna run over every single point on the sphere. And then for int I equals 0, as long as I is less than iterations, increment I. And then we'll make a block. I think that's correct, but let's see. Then we just need to do something. So we have a point attribute called hitPrim. So we'll say point, read that attribute. Point on input number 1. And we're looking for hitPrim. And it'll be point number I. So that's the hitPrim. It's equal to that. So far so good. No complaints, no errors. That's great. So then I guess we'll just there's something you can do, right? You can set groups and point attributes and stuff like that. Set point group. Yes, that sounds right. Let's look up that function. Vex functions. This is what I'm looking at. Set point group. And actually it's not point group, right? It's set prim group that we want. This is probably a super roundabout way of doing this, but let's see. So we want geohandle, that's 0, name, whatever, that's the inside of the class. Then we want a primnum, which would be hitPrim. And then we want to set it to 1. Okay. So 0, the geohandle. Name, that can be whatever. Let's try to name it inside. It's a string, so we need to get it in quotation marks. Primnum is hitPrim. The value is 1, and we're setting it. And I wrote set point group even though I explicitly said set prim group. So let's try again. That's that is not perfect. Incredible. Do we just need more? Yeah, okay. Just needed more iterations. Yeah, you can steal this trick. It's probably the worst way you could go about doing this, but it is a way. And now you know. think I'll rename this to group inside. Okay, great. So now we have the inside faces and we can split them or something. So get the inside faces. And then I think I'll just run a clip. I set that to direction 1, like that. And primitives below the plane. So we just clip some of the top here. And then we run a polyfill. Again, so it's quadrilateral grid. And let's see, not reverse patches. Let me just disable this group visualizer here. Yeah, so reverse patches will just reverse the patch alone. We don't want that. We just want to reverse the whole thing. Like so. And then because this is water meeting a cup, we need to get this dip to be down and not up. So we could use this thing. Although this is kind of getting into what I'm talking about with it being a bit hard to control it. So I think what I would rather do is disable deform patch, so it's just completely flat. We still want the reverse node. And then see, why are we not allowed to get the edge loop? I don't know. But fortunately, we can just group it up here, clipped edges. That should be the one that we're looking for. Yes, it is. And I'm guessing we still have it down here. Yep, we sure do. Just quickly drink some water. Okay. So we have that edges group, so I think we can just do a distance along geometry. And start points, we'll have to promote it to a points group. Group promote. Clipped edges. 2 points. Great. Clipped edges, there we go. That's fine. We'll set it to mask instead. And I like to just set this to linear so it's easier to control. And we just turn down the distance a bit. Something like this. Yes. Then we can do a soft transform, soft peak, whichever one. I think both would be fine. And I just want to do it only on the patch, so I'll just group the patch there and then set this to patch. It's not a valid group. Does it only allow point groups, maybe? Does it say that? Subset of points to transform? Yes, it does. Group promote, that's a bit obnoxious. Lots of group promoting here. So patch, promote that to points. There we go. And that did not do exactly what I expected it to. So let's see, is soft peak better? No, not soft peak, because the peak node recently got the same functionality. So maybe just peak. Do patch. Nope, don't love that either. See, if we change this to attribute and we set it to mask. yeah, now we can get what we want here, which is just a little bit of a lift here at the edges. So I think that'll be good. And you might even want it to be more, even more sharp. So you could do something like, I think actually the polyfill already has this functionality, an edge loop that gets closer. But that's trying to keep the shape there. I don't think that's not what we want. So maybe you could do a poly bevel here, and you could exclude the flat edges here. And then do a little bit of a bevel. Maybe instead of excluding flat edges, we can just set it to only the clipped edges there, like that. And then I'll set this to a chamfer and 3. I don't think chamfer was the right one. Solid, yes, solid is the right one. And 2. So we get 1 edge on either side here. So I think, let's see here. Do these become part of the inside group? They do not. Or the clipped edges group? They don't. That's great. So then when we get down here, we should be able to pick a lower value and then only, yep. So we could do something like that. We could even increase the distance here a little bit. Something like that. Yep. So we could also create an alpha attribute here just for the viewport so we can see through this glass here. So if we set this to 0.3 and then we merge it with the water, I get confused, and that's because we've set the default value to 0. We should set it to 1. There we go. There it is. A glass of water. And just to make sure that these two guys do intersect a little bit, I'll bring the peak up here, and then I'll just peak it something like that, and then in reverse, like so. So if we're looking here in the wireframe, we can see that they are intersecting a little bit. It's probably a bit too much here. So I'll just turn it down to 0.05, 005. And then I think from here, we'll just try to go nuts with some rendering and then probably find out that we're missing a bunch of stuff. But that doesn't matter, because then we can just try again. So that's the water, and this is the glass. Gotta remember to name your things when you're rendering in Solaris. We'll make a grid for the floor. And I'll just match size all this so it sits on the floor like that. And then let's get two materials here. This will be glass, and this will be water. This is the glass, so we'll set that to enable the transmission, and then decrease this to a very low value. And 1.5, that's glass. Then we'll get water. Go increase the transmission to 1. Set a low specular, and then 1.33. Let's see if we can assign here from the viewport. So we'll get the glass on the glass. And the water on the water. Great. Move that up there. Delete that material linker. Now we can't see it in the viewport because for some reason it shows transmissive materials as if they're non-existent. So I'll just disable the material preview here. And I think it's been updated such that if I enable the render now, yeah, it re-enables the materials. So that's awesome. That's a very good decision. Because I have had lots of projects where in good faith, I've pressed one of these buttons while navigating the viewport, and then I start the render, and this is enabled or something, and I'm like, fuck, our pipeline is broken. We have to start over. But no, that's just viewport issues. And this actually doesn't look too bad. So one of the reasons why I'm doing this as the project for Refract is that every time I have to do this thing, I forget how to do it. So I think this time around, I'm gonna pay attention, and I'm gonna explain along the way what I'm doing and why I think I might be doing it. And then hopefully someone can tell me that I'm wrong if I'm wrong. If I'm not wrong, then that's great as well. But yeah, now we have a glass that has that effect of kind of the water merging in with the glass itself. And I think we should try to bring up the Solaris render gallery here and just take a snapshot of what we have at the moment. And actually, I'll just delete that for a second, and then instead we'll use the live render setup there. Like so. And then start render. I'll disable this one. Hey Philip, good to see you. How you doing? There we go. Take a sip of water. Yeah, I'm doing good as well. Yeah, thank you. That's a good catch. Yes. It's a new haircut. Let's see if I can. I don't know, was that any better? Is that aimed more at me? Because I noticed I'm at the edge of the screen there. Yes, it's aimed more at me. That's great. Yes, new haircut. I also got new glasses, which is amazing because apparently I've been blind for the past 5 years. And last time I went to the optician, they told me they couldn't help me, basically. But this time around, they could. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah, so let's see. I think then if we stop this render now, maybe we'll have to snapshot it. I'm never sure about that. No, that just snapshotted the viewport. Okay. For some reason, by default in Karma, there are no internal reflections for the glass, so a good idea is to set them in render geometry settings, lop. Okay. No internal reflections for the glass. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I see, like, we're kind of missing, like this, that you can actually feel the edge of the glass, or what? So I'm kind of, I am a little bit dumb when it comes to these things, you know, like I don't always get them. And I think I kind of, I have a tendency to get really deep into it at one point, and then I forget all about it. Yeah, Karma, and I would guess any renderer needs that slight intersection. So that's what we've been doing here, and that's what I'm gonna try to do a comparison between. So I think if we take this peak and just disable it, then we'll try to see it without intersecting the geometry at all. We'll see how that looks. Yeah, the V-Ray docs are not far off here. I was just looking at this example here from the V-Ray documentation, and you can see here how this is the scenario we're rendering right now, and you can see that this C-depth fighting is causing them some issues here. And we're experiencing pretty much the same thing. Here. So if I stop that render, you can look at these two versions. Obviously, we prefer this one. So then let's grab this peak here and let's do it positive instead. So now we're trying to avoid any intersections, and then we'll start the render again. Yes, and now we get that unwanted double refraction scenario, which you would think is the realistic thing. I still don't really get it, but it's not. The two things are supposed to behave as one thing, I guess. The water and the glass kind of merge in a way. But I wanna do what Ivan suggested and try to enable internal reflections. Let's see if I can find that. So I'll stop that render here. So now we have these three different versions, and then we'll go back to making sure that they do intersect. And then you're saying render geometry settings. And we need to get the glass. It would be under shading, I guess. Enable internal reflection. We start a new render. Did I do something wrong with this? Don't think so. So it seems to me like these two are exactly the same, right? Ah, no, not quite. That's right. Okay. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, I targeted the mesh. Yeah, but it does make a difference. It's just very subtle, and I'm guessing that's also because our environment around it is so simple. So the whole like what's it reflecting is very simple. We could try to enable it for the water as well. Let's do that. Let's get both of them. And actually what I should have done is I'll just go back and then we'll do some rendering. And then we'll make sure to get a snapshot. Yeah, me neither, Philip. Or actually, I think maybe I did once following some tutorial a long time ago. Not a long time ago, a few months ago, but you know. But yeah, it's one of those things you don't really you don't pay attention to it unless you know what it does or why you need it, and this I guess is a good testing ground for that. Okay, so that was that render, and we'll stop it. Maybe I should name this. So that's class int reflection, and then we'll get another one. Start the render. Let's see if it makes an even bigger difference. And maybe what we're doing here is just plain wrong. I don't know. Could be. Could very well be. Let's see. Are we seeing any difference so far? Subtle, but yes. There's a bit of a difference. There's also dielectric priority. Yes. I don't think you need to set that when you're just dealing with... Now you can see my vegan burritos notes here. Great. I'm looking for my Houdini notes. We're not doing that kind of cooking tonight. I was just trying to see if we wanted to do bubbles. Yes. Okay. Let's see. What does V-Ray say about this? What do they recommend? They also say that, no, that's correct, that the water's normals should be pointing in towards the cup's surface. That seems to be what we're doing. They're pointing out that way. That's all good. I don't think you need it for water, but let's try it out. So we have these two renders now, which are only very slightly different. So render geometry settings, glass. Let's get for the water. Get rid of the glass there. Or the water, sorry. And get rid of the glass here. And then dielectric priority. See, that was very different, wasn't it? Is this the wrong way around though? Is it supposed to be the other one? Specifies the priority of a refractive material, allowing the renderer to choose which of many overlapping refractive materials should take precedence while rendering. This enables effects like water in a glass with ice cubes. The default highest priority is 0. Yes, okay. So the glass should be 0, and then higher numbers, which would be the water, should be, well, lower priority. Oh, really? It's the other way around? Should do the water first, and then the glass, and then potentially an ice cube. Okay. Let's try to stop the render there, and then do the reverse. You see, I don't ever do this. Okay, good to know. Let's try to see, because I feel like this also doesn't look quite right, but I mean, who even really knows, right? Although I think that's pretty much the same result, even though we flip them around, right? Water is 1, glass is 2. Thomas Lanchik said he knows. I'm sure he does. Don't know who it is, but I'm sure he knows. Now my dog is barking. I don't know. I mean, it's super hard to tell what's the right configuration, right? I feel like you either need to just know or you need a reference. Get rid of this one. So this is what we had before, and this is what we're doing now. And this was when the priorities were flipped, which I guess I can see a difference. Which is like how far out this all moves. Doesn't glass need higher priority because water sticks into it now, but we don't want it to? I always get confused about the look of bubbles too, and then just choose what looks. That's wonderful. I really don't know. But I can definitely tell, like, either way, whichever one we pick, if it's this one is glass is higher prio and water is lower, and this one is reversed, water is higher prio and glass is lower, either one is still very different from not picking a dielectric priority at all. So this is water 1, glass 2. And this is, can I get to rename it, please? Nope, apparently not. I think I've been having some issues with this recently. I think my Houdini UI is giving up. So I'll just start a new instance and shut this one down. And here's the frog from day 7, I think. Very fun project. Let's get the render gallery up again. It really doesn't want me to rename these guys. Okay, well. I think I'll just do what Philip says, and we'll leave it at this, where the glass is lower priority than the water, and then we'll put some bubbles in. I recently saw people use very high sample values with Karma. What's your ref and ref samples? What do you mean, what's my ref? And what's my ref samples? I don't know. I'm still getting used to the CPU parameters, which I'm trying to stick with CPU for live streaming anyway, just to avoid crashing. But for the limits, I've set it like this, which is close to default, but just increase the diffuse limit to 3, so I get global illumination. And then the refraction limit, I've set it to 6, which I'm not sure if it makes a big difference in this render here. We can try it out if we start a new one. But I initially set it to 6 because I had a project where it did make a big difference, and it does here as well. Try 24 for both. Okay, sure. But yeah, it makes a huge difference for the refractions here. I think one thing that's nice though is to see that I think before what they would do with the whole business of not I'm not sure what these are called, but like the termination color or whatever it's called, like the, you know, when the ray has done all of the bouncing it can do, all of the refraction it can do, it seems like this is returning the color of the dome light, which is kind of awesome, because before in 20.5 and previous versions it used to return black always, which is not ideal. So this is a much better result than you would have gotten in 20.5. Okay, so you're saying try to increase diffuse and refraction to 24. And then see how that looks. I mean, it looks more interesting for sure. Reflection and refraction. Yeah, Looks good. Is it worth the render time? Who knows? I mean, I think in this scenario it's not even that much more, but it's probably way noisier is the problem. Right now I have a denoiser on, so it's hard to tell, but we could try to disable the denoiser, and then that's the result with super high samples. And then if we decrease these back down to, let's say, the defaults of 4 and 4, and we try to do another render. Let's try to see after roughly the same amount of time, because it is roughly a minute for both, but I think it's just because it's doing its amount of samples and doing however good a job it can with those samples, and then it stops. So it doesn't really matter what we set these to, it's not gonna take much longer. But let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. I mean, that would be great, right? You can get a good result and you don't even sacrifice a lot of time. That's amazing. Yeah, I love it as well. And the good thing is that there's no weight on my shoulders to know know everything here. I just have to click buttons and we see what happens together. Honestly, it's not even noisier, is it? And it took basically the same amount of time. I think this one was like 1 minute and 10 seconds, and this one is 50 seconds. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess because we also have a color limit, right? So it actually doesn't go to 24, even though we set it to 24. So we could try to go nuts and set it to 24 and 24. And then we could say increase the color limit to, what would that be, like 50 probably? That would be high enough to get all of them. And we can see if we can even see the difference here. We can play spot the difference. Probably none. We could try to A/B this. Nope. I don't see any difference. So maybe this color limit doesn't work as I thought, or maybe the difference at a certain point is completely negligible. What if we decrease this to 6? Yeah, so it's because this doesn't do what I thought it would do. The maximum value of a shading sample is allowed to contribute to an LPE image plane to reduce appearance of fireflies caused by undersampling. Note that reducing this value can... Okay, so it's not like a direct... You're not adding these guys up to then do the color limit. I thought that's how it worked. Looks like it's not. also very interesting. But I wonder what this even does then. Because I don't see a difference between having this at 50 and 6. So what's the point? Is it just broken, or does it actually not do anything? Yeah, Philip, you should be taking notes and then send them to everyone in the chat or something. I don't know. I feel like we're learning some truths here about Karma Renderer and what it... No, I don't know. We're not. We're not. It's nothing like that. Stop comparing. Yeah, so I think this didn't do what I expected it to, and I don't really understand what it does. Maybe it doesn't do anything. Maybe it's broken. Who knows? Color limit very high is necessary if using caustics. Okay. Is caustics the next thing we're doing? Because I actually did play around with caustics at the beginning of Mardini, I think, and decided against doing it because the render times were just too high. But right now we're just exploring, so we're fine to play around with it for a little bit, and then we can just scrap it if it doesn't work. And then you should also get, let's see, advanced indirect guiding, most likely, to get the best results out of your caustics. I think maybe let's try to do let's see, stop comparing and then stop the render. And then I will do like this. Start Karma CPU. We'll get a render region down here. We'll play around with caustics for a little bit. And first we'll just check with the dome light only, and then in a second I'll put a much more extreme light shining through, and we'll see what happens. So I'll snapshot. Okay. View image. Okay, that's weird. Is it because you have to double click? I don't know. Anyway, looks like this. And that was without indirect guiding. And if we enable indirect guiding and then let it render again, we should both see that more light is actually coming through and hopefully a reduction in noise, but we should also be seeing that the render takes a little while longer than it did before. Before was 29 seconds. This time around it'll probably be 35, 40, something like that. $36. Little snapshot. Yeah, so that didn't really make much of a difference, it seems, as long as we're just dealing with this dome light here. But if we try to disable it and we get a light, let's just for now go up here and get a disk. Like that. and then maybe decrease the spread. I think now if we then go Karma CPU, oh, that was too little spread, I think. And then we probably want to catch more of the backside here of the glass in our render region. So let's make it a bit bigger here, something like that. What a noisy image. Okay, let's take a snapshot. And that was, I think, with indirect guiding enabled. And then we'll disable it and try again. And then I'll look like a fool because it'll make no difference. Probably. Let's see. Take a snapshot. Okay, there we go. So it does make a big difference, yeah. So it does add a lot to the render time here. It's like 50%. But you can also see that the caustics are much more focused in a way. These are very bland, and these are pretty extreme here. So that's what indirect guiding helps you achieve. In terms of caustics. Outlines? No. we don't want outlines for our exploration with realistic refractions. So I think we could just hand this in and call it an artistic piece or something. This one is pretty good too. Could be an album cover. I think we're getting pretty close here. It's hard to pick between these two guys. But I think then we could enable this dome light and we could say something like go here and disable contribute to caustics, and I just want to see what that does to our render time, if it does anything good at all. And then I also want to see what it does to the look of the scene. So this wasn't too bad. That was just a few more seconds compared to this version here. Those 5 more seconds for another light added. And it looks like this. And then if we enable contribute to caustics on the dome light, then let's see how that looks and how the render time looks after doing that. And then I think once we've done this, we need to start working on an actual render. Because otherwise we'll have thrown away all our time and not have anything to show for it. So You're right about that. Indirect guiding was disabled. So let's see here. That's a very good point, Philip. Thanks for catching that. Delete this one. You were AFK, yeah. Well, you still caught a problem in our logic here. So what I'm looking at is the difference between having this is indirect guiding enabled with just the disk light. And then I wanted to do a version where we enable the dome light, but with contributes to caustics off. Funny enough, indirect guiding is CPU only. Yeah, it is, yeah. Which is another one of the reasons that I want to do more CPU rendering, because you just have more features and they're all more solid. Okay, there we go. So now we have the actual comparison. The dome light doesn't contribute to caustics. And now this thing won't switch image. There we go. It doesn't contribute to caustics. Indirect guiding is enabled. Looks like this. You can still tell the caustics are going on. And then we'll enable contributes to caustics and see how that looks. And how much it contributes to the render time is mostly what I'm interested in. But yeah, I definitely think looking at at this comparison here, I definitely think we should render with caustics enabled. Or just use Arnold. We gotta fight about render engines. Hey, Fractaler. Good to see you here. How are you? Okay, so that was, we added 4 seconds of render time. And the difference is, it's subtle. It's kind of hard to tell because of all of the noise, but I think it's nice that you get just a little bit more of, you kind of get that like the reflective caustics here as well, which is nice on this side of the glass. So it's nice, and it's not that much render time to add, so I think we'll keep that as well. Yeah, I'm definitely all good, so yeah, I hope you are as well, Fractaler. So my girlfriend just came home, so I'm just gonna mute the microphone and go for a minute or two and say hello, and then I'll be back. All right, I'm back. What I learned from using Arnold for quite some time now is using render region. So efficient. Yeah, we had a project in uni where, well, we had to do a creature, and it was a bunch of subsurface scattering and CPU rendering and all kinds of fun stuff. Very heavy displacement, very inefficient use of textures. So yeah, render region was the only way to get anything done. That wasn't V-Ray, but I think it would have been the same thing in Arnold and any other CPU renderer. Okay, but I think I might just turn back on the denoiser, and then I'll hope that it's not too distracting for us. I'll also just get the albedo and normal, and then we'll hopefully get a slightly better result out of it. So albedo, and then utility, enable the normal, like that. Get rid of that render region. And then we'll disable or enable the correction toolbar and get ACES enabled. And there we go, we made a render. Amazing. Done. We did it. Not quite. Not quite. I wanna go back to the geometry now that we're roughly happy with the logic of the rendering that we're doing. I just want to fix the top of the glass here, because that's way too smooth for my liking, and I think that's gonna be it, but I do want to fix that. You couldn't participate. That's too bad, Fractaler. Did you get to do any of the days or not at all? So let's see this curve tool here. If I remember correctly, you can round corners, but maybe you need either a NURBS or a Bezier curve to do that. So what would happen if we... See, I think you can do it like this. Nope. Reinterpret curves as current type and order. You know, that is what I want. I think I do want a Bezier. Oh, that was different. Okay, that was a better result. Not at all. Last time I participated is 2023 or 2024, and only for 1 day each time I have work. Yeah. Yeah, I also thought I would participate a lot more, but then I got a job. Darn. Stupid jobs. So let's see here. What am I what am I trying to do? Just want to add. I don't think I want to do it this way. I think I'll just let's see, undo, go back to the polygon mode. We should have done it as a Bezier curve to begin with, but we didn't, so we need paid leave for Mardini. Yes, I agree. That should be fair, right? We're sharpening our skills. Let's see, is this any better? Kind of breaks what we did here though. So this is probably where we get to do some manual work. We'll select those two and do a poly bevel. And then we'll bevel just this part of the glass. Like that. And then everything else should just work. Now the glass is sharper at the top. It should probably be even a little bit sharper and a bit thinner as well. I think this is a pretty thick glass. So I'll just get the edit mode and then these 2 points here and hit K to get this handle, move it out a bit. So it's a thinner glass. There we go. Sweet. Okay. Then I think we just want to make some kind of floor material. So I'll get a UV texture on this grid. Maybe we'll just scale it up a little bit as well. A little bit, a lot. Like that. Maybe we want to do a bent grid. I'll just increase the size uniformly like this. Well, that was way too much. Like so. Move it forward. $100 by 100 probably is fine. We'll get a bend. And what is it? So it's N to fit and then B to cycle, but this seems to fit perfectly. It's the wrong way around though. So M to reverse. And G to toggle. Move it out a bit like this. There we go. We'll do like that. There. You could make this even shorter and then just set the bend angle to 90. Do something like that. Yep, seems good. And then if I just rotate the camera so we're kind of looking at that bent geometry, that bent background there. Maybe we'll look at it like this. This is gonna be a real programmer art entry. Set the focal length to, I don't know, 85, something a bit more shallow here. And then I'll make a coordinate. And tile pattern. Let's see here, tile count. You can set it like this, so it's just stripes. And then we do a random RGB. For some reason this ID goes into the size ref. It should go into the seed. And then we'll just make some kind of color ramp here. So that could be see, what do we want in between here? Some kind of pink. Something like that. And then I think we could, not do that, but turn them into constant. Just so we don't get a bunch of random colors in between. So we only get these guys. Or not random, but you know, so we don't get the gradient colors in between. I think maybe this one is too saturated. We could go maybe with a darker blue. Something like that. Maybe this one should be pretty dark as well. I don't know. Color theory, something like that. Do we have... No. So we should get aces definitely, because that's also what we're going to be looking at in the render. That's kind of... would be stupid to not look at it the same way when we're making the texture. Maybe we just want it to primarily be orange and then a little bit of pink and then even less blue. Okay, something like that. And then, let's see here, blend. We want to get those, the kind of the grout in between the tiles. We want to get that to be kind of a darker color, like the grout that you also have in between tiles in real life. So let's just get this and invert. So you just get a mask of the grout and blend with a constant, which will be a color. something like that. When they announced cops, it blew your mind. Yeah. It's definitely, it's a great addition. I wish it would feel a bit more finished than it does at the moment. It still feels a bit like a beta product, but it is a lot of fun, and it's in Houdini, so that's all great. It seems like these are not stretched all the way, so we should just get that. Let's see here. So if we scale horizontally so they stretch all the way across the edge, then I don't think we'll get that color bleeding here. Nope. That's all good. I'll just get this into a preview material. And now my dog is barking. Sorry about that. Okay. And so these tiles can go into, I think you have to do like a height to normal on these guys unless you want to display it as an actual displacement map. We just want it as a height map. And it was because I was showing the wireframe. That's what was going on there. Let's decrease this a little bit. Okay, so I don't think we want to go too crazy. I just want to... No worries about the doggo. That's good. Because I don't think he cares. I want to do a little bit here, which is... I want to do some roughness. Hey, Zach. How are you? Good of you to join. Yeah, so I want to put the fractal noise into roughness and let's display it. It's always, I think it's always super hard to tell with the roughness specifically when you're working with textures and cops. I think one thing you can do is change this to dome light or physical sky or 3-point lighting, and you can go properties and then you can kind of rotate the setup. So if it's the dome light, for example, you can rotate it here. And you can even show it as the background image. This one doesn't seem very helpful, so we could replace it with one of the ones that are already in Houdini. So that could be this one, not very neutral. Skylit Garage maybe is better. It's the one I use most of the time. Still doesn't feel great. But yeah, for example, at this angle, you can start to see some of the roughness. It's usually better to just get it into cops or into the render and check it there. But this could be a way of doing it, and then we'll grab a remap and just some values. I almost always go for something like 0.3 and then 0.7, and then I see how that feels. And I think that still doesn't seem quite right. That seems like a pretty intense difference to me. So maybe we'll do like 0.4 and 0.75. Actually, let's just bring it up higher. And now there's something that I don't get why it's doing that. It's because I'm at the wrong place, man. There we go. I was putting it in here in the input min and max. That's just increasing the contrast. It's not what I was aiming for. Okay, we're not gonna do anything crazy, so this is kind of it. I'll add nulls. And this is base color. This is roughness. And we'll just get the height, not the normal, like this. And call it height. Okay, and then I'll get this base color. Let's go into the material library, make a Karma material builder. And this will be the floor material. And then material X, tiled image. And I copied the path, so I'll just put it in here and put the up syntax before. Put that into base color, and then I'll try to assign this material here on the floor. Yep, that's great. It's been assigned. Oh, this looks insane. Would be super cool to have a button on the preview material, like make material of current inputs and send to Matt. Yeah, it would. I had a little Python script to do that at one point, but it kind of just got lost in the sauce when I was moving things around on my computer and updating Houdini to 21. So I don't know if I have it still, but it would be nice for sure. Now there's a dog walking outside our house, and I think my dog has seen it, so he is very interested. So I'll just try to increase the tiling a little bit here. And this is the base color. And then I'll do a reference copy of this thing. I'll just delete this here, and I'll type in roughness. That'll be roughness. And put that into specular roughness. And copy this. That's height. We'll type height here as well. You can also quickly tell, like, some of this stuff can just be solved with simple expressions. Like if you have a recipe and you just have expressions in there, it's pretty easy to solve that. Like that. And then all these colors need to be way darker. So we'll just go in here and pin the view, so we're still in the render. And then these colors just need to be much, much darker. Maybe something like that. Let's see. Is it going to crash on us now? You're going to RFE. Good idea. Let's see if they can figure out a satisfactory way to do it, because it was definitely difficult for me, and I think the way I did it works very well with the way that I want to work, but it doesn't necessarily work well with the way other people want to work. So I think we're crashing now, so I'm just going to start a new one, new instance, and then shut this one down. Yep, seems like it's crashing. I also just realized that I'm kind of just wearing that headset without actually getting any use out of it, because I don't have any audio going through it at any point while doing this, so there's no real point wearing it. Okay. Let's see. I think this just doesn't look very appealing at all. And I'm not really sure what does it. I think we'll have to image signature are on color, I think. Yeah, they are, but they just get reinterpreted to floats. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, you know, you should you shouldn't leave them on color, but in this case it should be fine. You can tell by these wires. You see this one stays is completely solid. It's like a constant wire and it's all green. This one goes from a green output, but then it turns this cyan, which is the color of floats, and it's a dotted line, which means it gets reinterpreted. Or like converted, I guess. I'm just gonna try to put a color correct in here and see if I can get these colors to behave in the way that I want them to. This is kind of interesting. It's not what I initially thought we would be doing, but it's kind of interesting. I think we might also just want to turn down the influence of the dome light here. Maybe something like that. And then this light, I'll just delete it for a second, and then I'll grab my gobo light recipe, which is gonna make this render take even longer than it currently does. But it also just adds this nice like fringing, color fringing at the edges of the light, which I enjoy. Let's just increase the size so it's a little bit softer. Something like that. Let's see, for some reason I can't really tell which direction the light is coming from, so I'll just go out of the camera view for a second. Yeah, there's caustics enabled. I don't have a I don't have a super thorough plan of what this is, Zach, but caustics are enabled. Let's see, where is it? It's here, enabled caustics, and we got that indirect guiding going on as well. I don't really think caustics is gonna be like the hero of what we're doing here. Also, I wonder what these are. These artifacts, or is it just? Is that just the fun kind of stuff that we get to look at? I'm not sure. I wonder actually if is the caustics working at all or no? Just wondering with this light filter if that does that kill the caustics? No. We had very clear caustics before. Where are they now? Do they just need longer? Yeah, I think they just need longer in the render. The size of the light is big enough to blur the caustics. Could also be. I think before we had a much bigger light actually before, but it might have just been further away. Maybe that was what was going on. So we could try that. Take this light, move it further away. Let's increase the size a bit here. Or the exposure, not the size. Try to make that render region even smaller. Well, I set myself a deadline for 2 hours, and that's in 5 minutes, so let's do this. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem quite right. I don't know what I'm doing differently. Maybe like spotlight is enabled could also be that. I am not sure. I'm gonna try to just get it light instead of dealing with all of that stuff. Disk light, go in the camera, clear the render region. Let's just disable that dome light for now. I mean, it does seem like it is. It does seem like it's working fine. It could also just be this. Yeah. So it's that the material underneath is too dark. I wonder if that's because we're pushing it way too dark with this color correct here. Add some fancy dispersion. Could do that. It's gonna take even longer though. Just increase the render time as much as we can. Let's see here. I can never remember which values are you supposed to put into this dispersion. It's pretty high values, right? Because the higher, the less, or I don't remember. This is the kind of stuff that Zach really knows, right? Low ones are good. This is a lot. Let's see here. It does look nice though. There's no complaints there. I think maybe this background being colored is not doing us any good. So I wonder. I think it's also just it's not good colors that we selected, but I wonder if we could just take the tiles directly like that, and maybe just, what else could we do? Sorry, it's not called ramp, it's called mono to RGB. I always forget how to deal with that. But mono to RGB, and then we'll just get the white color here, and we'll just turn it down a bit to something a little bit like this. If it's like Redshift, then the dispersion and dispersion are aberration values. I think for glass or water, it would be around 70. Lower values close to 0 give the most rainbows. Yes, sounds about right. So what, I modified the water material before, and you say around 70 should be a good number, not too many rainbows. You could do the same for the glass. Another dog just walked past, so we're gonna hear some barking in a second. Yes, thank you, Zach. We will do whatever you say. I think also just to see, to get a bit more imperfection, because this feels very perfect right now, maybe I'll just add in a mountain here at the bottom, and I'll set it to not noise along vector, but just noise the position. Now this is our glass. This looks great. I'll just decrease this to something very low. That's even too high. I think I'll do like that. And then I'll go fractal and just increase the roughness. Just want to disable this. I think something like that'll be good. It might be too subtle, we'll see. It might also be too much. We'll also see. Don't listen to me, I don't know Karma at all. But you do know rendering. So that was way too much. You can see it's super wobbly. I think I'll increase this element size to 1 again. And we'll see if that's better. And it is. It's not fully good though. I'll decrease the roughness a bit. maybe even more. Just want a subtle effect, nothing crazy. I think this might even still be too much. Maybe we'll just do half the amplitude, see if that's better. Yes, that is immediately better. I would like to get that gobo light though, so I just want to give it one more shot. Would be interesting for the Mardini topic to have an object behind the glass that's partly covered by the glass. Yes. It sure would be. Another glass and another one behind that. Render times to the moon. I'm kind of trying to get that effect just by having those lines in the background, but I do see what you mean, Philip. It would be a more interesting concept that way. I think I just want to add another light. See, we can even put it up here. We could even just duplicate this light here. I just want to see if I can. This one should be more soft. Can be further away. That's a really nice gradient there in the background. Everything else looks terrible, but the but the gradient looks nice. I really just wanted to see if I could kind of catch the specular of the glass there. And I don't really want to catch too much of the floor. Let's see if we can get some kind of balance there. What if I rotate this up? No, then it doesn't show in the reflection. Then we could get one just for the background there, so we can get that nice gradient that we just got before, which admittedly did look awesome. Something like that. That's starting to be kind of interesting. I think we're killing the foreground though. It's getting too much, it's receiving too much light. Is that just because of this one? Mostly, yes. So we could do a light linker. Just hack this a little bit. Maybe we don't want to. Maybe it's actually kind of nice that it's blowing out the foreground. Let's try. Just to have tried it out, and then we can delete it again if we don't like it. So we'll say this one shouldn't contribute to the grid. And then which one do we prefer? The hacked one, which is this. Or the so-called true one, which would be this. I think I almost prefer the true one. It's kind of nice. It's nice that it's blown out. So we're gonna have a super basic result here, and we're definitely not gonna win the day, because I'm sure everyone else will come up with very cool concepts. That's what we've seen so far anyway. But I'm happy with the exploration that we did. I've definitely learned a lot doing this, and it's been great having you guys along for the journey, telling me what to try out, what I'm doing wrong. So thank you. I just want to get some depth of field on it, and then I think we'll call it. Like so. Yep, so I'm gonna let this render for a while with more samples. Something like 25 probably. And I'll disable the denoiser because I'll do that in cops. And then at some point later tonight, I will do a bit of simple compositing, and then I'll hand this in, and that's Mardini for this year. It's been a blast joining in on the days that I could. Been amazed by all the stuff that everyone else has made. It's absolutely incredible. So it's been great. And hopefully I will still in the coming weeks have time to do streaming, even though it won't be Mardini on the coming Tuesdays. I'm gonna be working more so than I have previously, so who knows? Maybe I won't be able to anyway. We'll see if I can make it work. Yeah. Thanks for joining in. I will see you around.